everybody, and welcome to our first podcast. My name is Andrea Sanzo. I am a clinical and counseling psychologist and also family and systemic practitioner. I'm the owner of Utopian Psychology Institute, and I am here today with Amelia, Hobbs, and Louisa to talk to you, to share with you some of our research and reflection on the theme of unconditional self-love. And so we will have a little bit of an explanation and description of our findings. So we will tell you about things we discover in terms of different theories around unconditional self-love, and then we will have a debate about the subject, and also we will link this subject to mental health in general. So I really hope you enjoy it. And so Louisa will now share with us a few ideas that she has discovered through our research on this theme. So thank you, Louisa, and welcome.
Thank you. So as Andrea said, I've been sort of looking into unconditional self-love and what that means for different people and different cultures. So from my sort of reading and my research, I found that there isn't necessarily a set definition of unconditional self-love. So there are slight variations depending on us as individuals and where people are from. And it seems that generally the idea is that you love yourself unconditionally. So that means you're free of judgment and accept that as human beings, we all make mistakes, but those mistakes don't define us. And actually, we are more than that, and we are still worthy of that love. So it's important to make sure that we accept ourselves fully, as well as being aware of ourselves and our actions, and making sure that we really practice self-care and kindness towards ourselves as well. And so from a few different cultures that I've kind of found research on, it seems like there's this sort of recurrent theme and real similarities between them all. And the thing that seems to maybe vary is like relationships and things like that. So for instance, like the Chinese culture, there's this thing called Ren, in which people are really, it's about trying to find that unconditional self-love. And actually, once you have that self-love, you can then help others. And it's really tied into relationships and society and things like that, and how important that is. But with self-love sort of as the center of that, which seems quite similar to sort of like Greek philosophy. And correct me anyone if I pronounce this really poorly, but there's a term, Oikeiosis, I think it is. I might have pronounced that wrong, so like I say, I would really love someone to tell me how you say that. But it's about, again, self-love being the source, and then once you have that self-love for yourself, it can radiate out to your family, to your friends, to humanity as a whole, your community, and even towards nature as well. As well as those, there's like another sort of Indian ancient Hindu term called Atma Prema, I think you say it. Mm-hmm. And that is, again, it's all about how self-love is at the core of everything, and about this one sort of relates to seeing yourself in others and seeing others in yourself. And there's a really lovely connection to some words by a poet called Kabir, which goes, "The river that flows in you also flows in me." And I think that's just sort of a beautiful way of like connecting us all as people and individuals, and sort of seeing those similarities within each other whilst like recognizing us as individuals as well. And I mean, this is just from like my own sort of initial depths of research. And I know that there's going to be so many other views out there and things that really matter to different people. And I really welcome any sort of feedback or what people think. So feel free to let us know, send us a message or comment, and please tell us like what self-love means to you. So I didn't know, what does self-love mean to you two, Andrea and Amelia?
Oh, that's a good question. And so shall I start, Amelia?
Or... Yeah.
Cool. For me, as a clinical psychologist and as a human being, clinical psychology is a profession and a field, scientific field that is very actually quite a blessing to have, you know, to have studied it, because it's where there is a compilation and a combination of so many important theories. And unconditional love for me is the purpose of the Ethiopian Psychology Institute, and it is important, has really represents a sort of a personal, spiritual, philosophical, and unscientific base for me in terms of the work I do with my clients, for example, or any research I'm involved in, or any piece of work I do in terms of writing an article. And this is because since a very young age, I've felt quite inclined to feel love for everyone around me and have that emotion very strongly in me, and for nature and people, and which made me then want to reflect on that. So why do I feel so strongly, and so, you know, so why is this so important to me? And so unconditional self-love also, I've come to understand it in my personal path through actually becoming aware of the Christian philosophy, for example, which is related to loving yourself and others too, and not judging anybody, and understanding that we are all one, and having compassion, having kindness to one another, as the let's say the master of the, you know, is the wisdom behind the universe and how things actually come to exist. And so unconditional self-love for me is related to, comes from within. It comes from also gathered understanding and knowledge and theoretical, you know, views on the subject through philosophy, and religious wisdom, and equally, I think it links beautifully with mental health and psychology in general. As you were saying, Louisa, that idea of the river that flows in you also flows in me, that is so ancestral, and is so has been so loved and defended by some people, and it's I think what drives science as well, and what sparks curiosity in every single person, despite the level of emotional awareness, if you like, or emotional or cognitive abilities even, or ability to deal with stress, anger, hate. I think everybody really is somehow inclined to ask questions about unity and about equilibrium overall, in our biopsychosocial lives, and in spiritually as well, spiritually too. So unconditional self-love is, so far, personally, it's what I used to with me, so I try to apply it with myself as much as possible. You know, I think about it all the time. I would say I have an addiction, but I do try my hardest, and sometimes, of course, it's not easy to step back and to love your life before you love another, and to actually repeat in your own mind, like, I need to go more gentle on me, or I need to go slower, or I need to love myself more, not just use the theory but also apply it. And so clinically speaking, when someone is depressed or anxious, for example, they really find it difficult to slow down, and to find a comfortable pace for themselves, because I imagined, and I know from personal circumstances, but also working with many people, that the mind tends to go on a momentum of negativity, and that is the only thing we can feel, we can see. So I think human beings need to do a lot of research on it, and think about it with lots of care, and I'm hopeful that this one day will be something common and something we'll take very seriously too, in a serious way, and that becomes a general language in mental health and clinical psychology and all sorts of different fields too. I've given you a more generic answer, Louisa. Do you have any follow-up questions from that, or did that make sense to you guys?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that made a lot of sense, and I think like how you've linked it to mental health there is obviously so important, especially for now, as there's been like research and things that have sort of said how a lack of that sort of self-love, and it leads to inauthenticity in yourself and that depression and that anxiety, and that's why it's so important that people can maybe recognize it and start to see it as something that, you know, has a real importance in everybody's life.
Exactly. Because it's the idea behind, I believe, all studies. If you think about like maybe back in history, when people got really depressed about life because life wasn't always easy, and for many people it's not easy yet, people turn to nature or turn to love, even romantic relationships. People in general turn to love in their own way and their own knowledge. They will seek it in different ways, and so it is like the most primordial ancestral behavior, I think, alongside with survival. People tend to equally love, and I think some people channel that desire for the sake of science and scientific discovery. Others might channel that desire to protect loved ones, and or to contribute in other ways in terms of in their professions, in their aspirations. But for me, it feels like it's an element that unites everybody, really. And interestingly as well, biologically speaking, if we don't love ourselves, our bodies will not be in the optimal zone anyway, because it means that we are bringing quite a lot of stress into we are allowing or sometimes facilitating stressful thinking and stressful behaviors in our lives. And of course, our body, as much as it can be patient and tolerant and flexible, many times will not tolerate it for a long time. So we'll always want to be able to breathe properly, to eat properly, to digest food properly, to I think analyze the environment properly. And for all of these things to happen, we need to have a unconditional self-loving pace. We really need to respect our limitations and our strengths. And we can't just assume that we can answer everybody around us, because they might not be totally, let's say, totally mindful of their emotions yet, of your emotions, and might not be able to empathize with your pain or with your stress or with your life circumstances as you needed them to. So that is also I want to ask you guys as well, like your view, Amelia and Louisa, about that. Is I'm sure you've been through it, because this is always a work in progress in our planet, I think, and I believe it's not about perfection, but it's about recognition. Is about our emotions being recognized and understood scientifically, as well as the impact of our emotions on ourselves and on others. But I imagine you also might have experienced times where, well, you've really needed a different kind of pace that was more nurturing, soothing, grounding, and not people. And sometimes people are not able to see it because, understandably, they are on a different brainwave platform, so they are stressed, they are panicky, they have different belief systems. Yeah, so I'm wondering about that. I'm wondering if you guys could share some sort of what are your views, your thoughts are on that too. So in terms of self-love and pace, and these ancestral ideas of truly respecting yourself, as you mentioned, Louisa mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, I wanted to add to that as well, because I think just like an experience of mine was that I thought that I was, giving myself self-love, unconditional self-love, for a really long time by making sure that I was resting and just kind of eating a lot of rubbish foods, kind of staying in bed all day. And in my head, it was like, you're just giving yourself a break. And that to me was self-love at the time. But obviously in reality, it's not quite the case. And I was lacking in some areas as well. So I needed to kind of up the pace more than anything. I needed to get myself out of bed. I needed to go into nature. I needed to do some meditations. I needed to see some people, be social, all of these things that kind of create self-love as well. I needed to do, and I really wasn't doing. So it is interesting that you say about, unconditional self-love and the pace, because I think a lot of people as well would relate that to like almost like a burnout, working too hard, not even thinking about self-love, when it can go vastly the other way as well. When you're not doing anything, you've slowed right down, you stay in bed all day, you eat a lot of rubbish foods, you're not watching, like you're watching TV all day and you're not exactly connecting with anyone around you. You're not connecting with yourself. And I think that's, to me anyway, that's what self-love is really about. It's about connecting to yourself and, eating the food that you like, but, not overindulging on everything as well, because that can be just as harmful as not having something at all. And so, yeah, that's just my experience. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. I really like that. I think you are so right. And what you open up the discussion to actually, how does unconditional self-love translate in practice, in reality? So, and like this ancestral knowledge from Ren and Confucian and others, they always spoke about values in life. So it's not just self-love is not just indulgence at all. It is a constant commitment with what is right, what is healthy, what is good for your soul, your mind, your body, for yourself holistically. And it is also Pythagoras, for example, that I love, and I find quite a lot of resonance with his work, spoke about, the measurement of life, of existence, that, for example, for us to be truly happy, it's not just about indulging in one desire we have, an aspiration, but it's to have the 360 degrees overview of many of our life activities and aspects of ourselves. Many, you know, it could be definitely, as you were saying, Amelia, could be resting, it could be walking in nature, finding out who you are, where you're really at, finding out what you love doing, not being stopped from doing what you love. So finding ways to build those paths, those avenues where you can reach your full potential, and you can inspire more your own life even and others. And equally to have a consideration, I guess, Louise, it was what you brought up, is to have a consideration for the other too. And it is a beautiful, again, a beautiful beautiful phrase, that the river that flows in you also flows in me. So where does the, you know, perhaps, and it is the unity is in that equilibrium, as you were saying, Amelia, in that balance of, yes, it is me, but it is not just about me. The planet is not just about me. It's about everybody all together at the same level. Like, there is space for everybody, there is opportunity, infinite opportunities for everybody to be fully friendly, yet to not disregard their own needs and to do the work they require. Yeah. And how about that, and Louisa, we have not introduced like ourselves properly, but I think we are excused because it's our first podcast, guys. So bear with us. We are all a little bit anxious, and of course, we have a great deal of hope that you are inspired today, and then we're bringing something, an energy that is new for you. Not necessarily the content, but you will feel energy being renewed, I imagine, as we are very happy to deliver this to you. But you know, the subject of depression and anxiety in the world, and perhaps being tackled by very I don't know about you guys, you both have understanding of psychology, understanding of existence, and the current setting is very much about one of very quick prescribed methods to treat people's mental illness, and gradually becoming a little bit more holistic. But in fact, for example, in the UK, the money is being channeled to people that can deliver short-term interventions, faster interventions, and it takes ages for people to open up to many other aspects of you know, our healing, our effective healing. And that can make people feel confused, because this is the, you know, if they go to a doctor and they imagine just CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, they might say yes immediately, because they might trust that status of being a doctor or of being a psychologist or of being you know, other profession, and people end up not reflecting on the details of their lives and contemplating the bigger picture, in my view, which is their own existence, their soul, their biochemistry, and the purpose of life in general. So this is, I think, an important thing for people to think about, and to be free to ask for other methods, or really look into you know, therapies that speak to their hearts, I guess, and serve them well.
Definitely.
Well,
I mean, sorry, I know that Louisa's done some research into self-love and how that can be affected by anxiety and vice versa. But it is interesting that you say about more holistic approaches towards depression and anxiety, because in my research I found that you know, as we're building up to this self-realization you know, it's, you know, there's a hierarchy of things that we need, and it's, you know, it's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is really interesting, and it goes from our, you know, our very basic needs like food, sleep, water, those things that we deserve as human beings. It's a human right to have all of those things, all the way up to our esteem, which is things like, having a lot of love for yourself, like strength, mental strength, and recognizing that you are, a innately perfect human being, and being able to express yourself freely, and just be the person who you actually are. And I think that if people were more aware of that hierarchy, people would be able to, have a look at it and go, this is where I need to work on, this is where I need to build up to, and kind of use it as stepping stones to get to that perfect point of self-realization, of self-love, and being someone who lives without judgment. Because I think that it's an important place to be in all of our lives, and it allows us to live without those feelings of depression and anxiety and mental strains,
Yeah, very, very interesting. That reminds me of, I don't know, Louise, if you want to jump on saying something, feel free, yeah? Just a little comment on that, and I can go on forever. But that reminds me of, of sometimes or many times a person might not even be aware of their entitlements, of their human rights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think many people are not aware of this, so truly recognizing that this is from birth, and it's from the birth of human existence, that a person is meant to live free from humiliation, stress, demand, bullying, judgment. We are all meant to live like that, and our human rights, and also Maslow has done a beautiful piece of work. His research was to make it to highlight to us all that there are needs that we can't close our eyes to, and perhaps if we would pay full attention to them and use our cognitive skills, in other words, our memory, our language, our processing speed, our attention span, to fully structure, I guess is what I mean, is to structure the steps we need to be aware or mindful of in order to also repair our bodies and heal our lives, because I'm sure most people have been through been through some difficult times, either direct or indirectly. So I think we have all to heal ourselves, and work on the understanding Maslow hierarchy of needs, and to think more strategically about, how am I doing in these areas, and how is my friend doing about them? Is there anything I can from my friend, or just help him reflect about this? And because we are nothing without the other, in a way. Of course we have everything in our singularity, but I think people will not feel that common unconditional love if my next neighbor doesn't have the same as I. This is how I see it. So will be always good. We will be happier when we see equality, I guess, but also equity, ability to each person receive the treatment interventions they need for their lives. It can be different from the things I need for my life. Could be so different. Yet that doesn't make us better or worse, superior or inferior. We are all one. And the unconditional love for me, from my research, it really is about bringing everybody together, and in bringing health at the top of our priority, and science as well. Curious about science and what is really relevant for our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's like that sort of common theme of that sort of self-awareness that seems to run through the self-realization and the self-love and things, that actually to be aware of ourselves and our own needs and our own rights, but also that of others and the people that are around us as well, so that we can all support one another, and we can be aware of maybe how our actions all combine and have influence upon each other and things like that, to make sure that, like, through that we're not only being kind to ourselves but being kind to everybody else around us as well, and actually looking out for one another, because we are, at the end of the day, like a social species. Like, we rely on each other and we all need those connections around us.
Lovely, very well said. And it feels good, right, when we think about that together. If I would ask you, how do you feel now? Do you feel calm and happy and soothed by this communication, this dialogue? I definitely feel it. Feel soothed, feel calm, feel inspired. How about you guys? I don't want to say anything that is not in your heart. How do you feel after having a chat about this?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, again, I can't speak for Louisa, but I definitely feel really happy about it, and I think that it's a calming kind of topic of conversation for us all, and I think that it should be more widely spoken about. It should be just normal, not taboo. If someone's having a hard time with their like self-love, we should be able to talk about it together, and it's something that I think is really important, definitely.
How about
I really yeah, I agree completely. I think it is so important, that openness and being able to talk things through with people is just, I don't know, it's such almost like luxury to have people that you can connect with and can be validated by, and just feel like you can be like open and authentic with. And actually, if you can start there, then it can really reach out. Like, there's no limit. So
yeah, and it's like you were saying about how I think it was with the Chinese definition of self-love with Ren, and how that is within us and it radiates out. Yeah, and it's exactly what you've just said. It's, if with our happiness, with our love, with our connection, we can take all of that and kind of go and send it out to everybody else. And it is a massive luxury for us to have, because it's not been that way throughout history as well. There's always been like ties that have been cut off here and there, and people not being able to talk about their mental health and things like that. Especially like now, it's more of a topic of conversation than it ever has been before. People are way more easily being able to talk about it, and it's fantastic. I'm really happy about it, actually, because it's now more than ever, it's the best time to be able to talk about it. And yeah, I'm very thankful for it, actually.
Thank you very much for sharing your views. So I'm aware of the time. We will also need to, in a way, get this video finished, finalized, this recording. And I'm wondering if you guys want to say any last things as well in terms of your reflections, or you feel satisfied.
Good.
I mean, I think just everybody's like on a journey, aren't they? And we're all at different stages of that journey, like myself included. This is something that's still so sort of new and everything to trying to accomplish. And I think it isn't necessarily just, flick a switch and it's there, but it's really important to really try and put in that work to get there, because as soon as you start, I think you start reaping the benefits. So just the importance of it.
Yes. And sorry, me and Louisa were speaking earlier, actually, about how realization of this topic is way more important, or it's one of the biggest things that can come of this. Is, as soon as you realize that you need to start doing this, your whole world just opens up around you. It's fantastic.
Lovely. I agree. I couldn't agree more. And we have an amazing, project now with Utopian Psychology Institute, and so we will be doing our best to keep being ourselves, authentic. We are not trying to get followers for to be famous, and I think that is a trend these days. But we are really keen to explore things from a scientific angle and from unconditional love, and from and cover many important aspects of in mental health too. So thank you very much, everybody that watched this video. It has been a pleasure to make it for you and to record for you. And thank you, Amelia and Louisa. Thank you,
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you.